Thank you all for joining for our series, Educating Business Leaders on Being Supportive in the Workplace with Childcare Concerns and Issues. I'm India Green, your host and Relationship Growth Specialist here at Childcare Answers. I have with me Mollie Smith, our Executive Director of Childcare Answers, for our first portion of our series, Understanding the Concerns of Childcare in Indiana. Thank you, Mollie, for joining me today in this conversation, so we can dive right into all the questions that I have for you. So tell us about Childcare Answers and the services that we offer.
Great, thanks for having me. At Childcare Answers, we provide a lot of different services to 3 to 4 different audiences. The first is those families that we want to serve for childcare referrals. We offer enhanced referrals, and that means we do extra phone calls to those childcare programs to check on openings. And those are for children that may have special needs, or infants and toddlers, because those spaces are sometimes hard to fill, or hard to find. And then also, like with families experiencing homelessness, we offer information and quality education about the child's development. Anything that the parent may have concerns about, we can offer technical assistance or one-on-one support to do that. But then also we take a lot of that information and put those into parent workshops, something that parents can view at any point in time, because like you mentioned, we put things on social media, YouTube, so I can watch it at 11 o'clock at night, or I can watch it live, whatever works for me. And then we also do some panels. As you know, many things happen in the world around us. We like to take the opportunity to pull in experts. So we've had panels on grief and racism and just a variety of topics that we feel are very influential to what our current state is. We also work with childcare programs. We want to help support their new businesses, and as they begin to open, we also want to work with current childcare providers as they want to expand capacity. And as through the pandemic, we know that there's been challenges for childcare providers to remain open because of business challenges and financial challenges, but we also understand it's been challenging for families to find spots, and so that capacity is super important. And so we also, alongside that those emerging programs, we do help do mock inspections, and we help them with the licensing process, making sure that they're set up and ready to go when their childcare business starts. And then lastly, we work with community and businesses, and obviously that's why a lot of folks are here today. With community organizations, we like to share information about the services we offer. Obviously, there's a lot of organizations who work with families, and this is a great partnership to have, because we can give support through those childcare referrals and technical assistance, but then there are also organizations that we want to partner with. So when families call us, we have the contact for them, and we can cut through some of that red tape. It's much easier to make a connection for a family with a warm handoff versus giving them a telephone number. So we want to make sure that we're supporting the whole child, the whole family. And so making sure that we have good partnerships with those other organizations is key to that. And then also specifically for today, we work with businesses, and for us, it's helping businesses understand the importance of childcare as to their business. A lot of folks think childcare is a family challenge or a family problem, but what we're finding out, and through a lot of different surveys and studies, is that there are a lot of effects that happen to the business when parents, grandparents, or whoever the caretakers are not fully focused on the job because they're concerns about childcare. Obviously, we know the cost is astronomical, and so anything that businesses can do to support those costs through various options. Again, a lot of people think that has to be a lot of money going into it, but there are a lot of options to make family-friendly policies to support these businesses that then can support their employees and hopefully give a downturn to some of that turnover that costs a lot of money. So we do a lot of different things, and that's a very loaded question when we ask that, but I think it's really making sure that we are supporting the whole family and supporting the child for that best early care and education.
Thank you. Yeah, we definitely do a lot, and I commend all my coworkers for, taking advantage of the opportunities that we have and continue to reach. Another question that I have: what is considered quality and affordable childcare? This is a two-part question. So, and what does that look like here in Central Indiana?
Sure. So quality care in Indiana is defined as levels 3 and 4 on our quality rating system, which is called Paths to Quality. And so that, again, is specific to Indiana across the whole state. These programs, that go are at a level 3 and 4. They go beyond the basic health and safety requirements that we would expect every program to have. They go beyond the learning environments, and they take the next step. And so a lot of those higher expectation comes alongside with planned curriculum. Their staff education is a huge piece to that. Again, the higher level, the higher the expectations, and then eventually national accreditation. In Central Indiana, we have many high quality programs. They can come in basically 3 different auspices or 3 different scenarios. So we have family childcare homes that are licensed, we have licensed centers, and then we have registered ministries. And so it really depends. Those homes, you can serve, a small group up to 12 children, and then some of the ministries and centers can serve, hundreds of children. So there are a lot of different options that can apply to what the families need and how they're comfortable with where they're sending their child. So I think it's really making sure that it's a good fit. Just because it's a level 3 and 4, it may not be a best fit for my family. I may need a family childcare home because of certain needs that I have. So it's really helping the family understand what their needs are, but then also giving them support to know what to look for when it comes to the environment, talking to the teachers. Are they down on the child's level? What are they doing to really make sure that the child is comfortable and that they're confident in what they're doing. We know that childcare is very expensive. And so when it comes to affordable childcare, I feel like that's a very loaded question, because childcare is something that is a necessity for most families. And if I do not make a certain amount of money, I cannot afford it and still afford food, transportation, housing, all of those crucial pieces to having a family that is safe and healthy. And so when we look at it, we know that childcare in Central Indiana can cost anywhere from $9,000 to $11,000 a year, which is basically equates to a first year of college tuition, and that's just for one child. So if I have more than one child, I may get a small discount, but it's not enough to really offset the fact that I could have 2 to 3 children. And again, if you have an infant and toddler, it's much more expensive. So when we look at affordability, it's really helping everyone understand that it's not that these childcare programs are charging too much. It's just they're charging just enough to make the ends meet. And so when we think about the number of adults that we need to have, the quality of education that they have, so that they can earn an income in order to afford that, then they're passing that cost along to families, and families cannot afford those things. There are programs out there to support financially. So we have the Child Care Voucher Program, CCDF. So if you make under a certain threshold, then families qualify for that. But if you're a family that may be in between, so above that threshold, but not making enough, or maybe a single income household, there a lot of times that we call them Alice families. And so they fit in the middle. And so they make just too much money to qualify for services, but they don't make enough to make sure that I have food on the table and my housing is secure. So we know that their biggest thing is really making sure that we understand that quality is going to cost money, but we need to be able to support families. And so obviously with the pandemic, there have been a lot of pieces put into legislation and a variety of ways to try to get funding to families to support them as they try to pay for childcare costs. But I think the biggest thing for us in the field is we can't have that stopping. We have seen the devastation that it has caused prior to the pandemic, and this has just brought it to the front page so that everybody else can see it. So really, when it comes to that quality and affordable, they have to both be there. I can't have quality and it be astronomical and I can't afford it. Then there's only a certain few that will have that quality childcare, and we know that every child deserves that. So really, it's important for the family to be able to evaluate that program, to know if it's the best fit for them and if it's high quality. But then we as a community and businesses, families, everyone needs to figure out how we can make this work so every family has that opportunity.
Yes, thank you so much for shedding light on, the different areas that families can kind of navigate to potentially help offset that cost of childcare, because it is expensive. So I know, with that being said, why is early childhood education a key part of a child's success? Why do we need childcare?
Well, I think really with our mission at Child Care Answers, it is to improve the well-being, care, and education for the whole child. And we know that as soon as a child is born, there are so many things a parent is responsible for. And obviously it's the physical safety, making sure the child's fed, making sure they have a home, shelter, all of those things. But past that, we know that there's a lot of development happening. And it's not just physical, there's the mental, the social, emotional. And so with that, we know that 90% of that child's brain is developed by the age of 5. So when we're talking about laying the foundation for a child's future, so much is happening in those first few years. We want to ensure that that child is in the right place and getting stimulated the way they need to, has the social emotional stability, and is being in an environment that they can thrive. They are the foundation, right? That's what we need. But going forward, we know these are the people that are going to be making decisions, for us someday. And we know that that's super important. We need quality, functioning citizens to be able to be part of our community. And so when you think about the start, they need to have that good foundation at the beginning. We also know that there are a lot of changes that happen. If a child does not have a quality early childhood setting from the get-go, they're more likely to end up in the judicial system. There's a lot of different things that happen in a negative way without that support at the beginning. For every dollar invested in early childhood, we get a $4 return. And so obviously everyone has a different viewpoint, but sometimes it's money that needs to speak the language. And so we know that for every dollar you get a $4 return, that's a huge investment that we should be making in order to make sure that our future is secure. We also think about, the idea of preparing children for kindergarten. That's been a big message sending forward. How do we make sure our children are ready to go to school? They know what to do so that time isn't being spent on things such as, that social emotional piece. And that's where a lot of teachers are seeing it at the beginning, is they don't know how to be in school. And that seems a little absurd to a lot of people. But if you've been in the classroom, when you have 20 to 30 children that you're trying to get to one space or to do one thing, if you have children who don't know how to respond to other children, have that ability and awareness around them, it makes things more difficult, which then hinders the whole group. And obviously we want what's best for every child. So it's really important that we understand that it's not just about having care or a space for a child while parents are working. It's much more than that. It's about that quality education, knowing that that's the time when they're developing the fastest and the most, and that it's our responsibility as adults to make sure that that is happening. And again, it's not just a family problem, it is a challenge that the whole group, the whole community needs to take advantage of.
I most certainly agree with everything you said. I advocate that businesses need to be aware that this is not just a family issue, that this is also an economic issue. And it goes from everywhere across the United States. It's an issue. So leading into my next question I have for you, a statistic, 45% of parents are absent from work at least once due to a childcare issue, missing an average of 4.3 days. So with that being said, why is it so critical for employers to realize childcare isn't just a family issue, but also a business issue too?
Well, as we all know, when someone misses work, there's a lot of things that happen. So work isn't getting accomplished. People are needing to cover to make sure that work is getting done. There's a lot of different pieces when when there's a lot of absences, sometimes turnover happens, and then you have to then train a new person and bring that new person in. And so that all costs money. And obviously there's more to business than making money, but that is a crucial piece to this. So the bottom line is totally affected by childcare. And I think where we have learned a lot is by taking the time to ask the employees and to listen to what they're saying. When we've talked to other employers and they say, oh, childcare isn't an issue, that's not the challenges that my families are having. When we talk to the employees, they're saying, well, that's why I was late that many times. And so that's why then with that many times being late, I had points against me and then I was eventually fired. At the end of the day, the challenge was childcare because they weren't able to get to work on time. They didn't have reliable childcare, or, especially with those workers who work odd hours or untraditional hours, that can always be a challenge because they're relying on family, friends, and it's not consistent for the child. And so when we talk about the businesses piece in this, it's really taking the time to listen to your employees and how do we make this a culture of that we understand that everyone has a different challenge regardless of where they are in life, and really giving them the opportunity to share what they need. Sometimes it doesn't cost any money to support a family with family-friendly policies. There's a lot of different options, and a lot of people think it's also large amounts of money that needs to be happening. And every organization and business is different. Some small businesses that have 3 or 4 people, that's going to look way different than a business that has 300 people. And so really taking the time to ask the employees and find out what it is that they need, and then what can the employer do to support them. You're going to have employees who are happy. They're going to be able to focus. Because again, if I'm worried about the safety of my child during the workday, I'm not getting my work done. I'm not being 100% there. So even those families who do have childcare that are working, they still may struggle because they're not 100% confident that their child is safe. And so really, we want to make sure that businesses understand that it's, again, making sure that your employees understand that you have respect, there's respect there, you respect the culture of a family-friendly policy. What can I do to support you? It's just like health benefits. There's a lot of organizations who understand that that's a super important thing for families to have access to. Family-friendly policies goes right along with that to make sure that the whole family unit is healthy and it is something that the employer can then really see the benefits once the work improves. I do know that obviously with the pandemic, employers had a lot of employees who couldn't come to work because their children were at home. Things had to change. We had children home. There was no school. There was no transportation back and forth. So that had a huge effect on the families who are then trying to work from home while managing children. And so that puts a lot of stress on the employee, which then again affects their work. And so it's really one thing can lead to the other. And instead of looking at it from the standpoint of that family needs to get their act together, that family needs to find that childcare, how can I support them just like I do with health benefits and paid time off and things of that nature? So really for us, it's really just trying to open eyes, because oftentimes when employers take a look and they see all of these options, they're like, I had no idea. And it's not that they were closed off or ignoring anything, it's just they weren't aware. And so for us at Child Care Answers, I think it's really advocating for those families and helping employers understand what's all out there and available, and then help navigate that, because it can be very overwhelming if you're not used to it.
So I know you touched a little bit about what we can do here at Child Care Answers for the businesses and employers. Can you expand on that and kind of share a little bit more into that aspect?
So I know that there are a lot of options that we can offer, and it's really seeing where the employer is at. We want to start where they are. I would never want to expect anyone from our agency to go in and say, okay, here's the list of the things that you need to do, because that may not work for that employer or their employees. And so really, it's again, listening. So is that sending out a survey? That's something that Child Care Answers can help develop based on, again, the work that is done, the type of employees, the number of employees, and really ask those pointed questions, giving it anonymously so employees feel comfortable saying, either A, I feel supported, or B, I don't, and really gather that feedback, and then have a really meeting of the minds. Who are the folks who can make those decisions? And what we understand is decision makers don't always have all of the information when they're making the decision. So we want to be part of that. We want to help you get the information to make those decisions. And then we also have a lot of suggestions. There's a lot of folks that we've worked with, different employers, that have done great things, and they've seen things go well, and they've seen things that haven't. And so why not learn from lessons from other folks who have gone well or haven't? Partner like-minded businesses together and say, okay, this is something that worked for us, but this isn't what worked, what we started with. How can we compare and contrast and learn from each other? We can be the glue that puts all of that together. And I think really we have experts on our team when it comes to families. Can we bring in families to help those new employees find quality childcare? What is it that we can do to support? And it may not be directly us, but we can help you find those people. So we can be the conduit to really make sure that you have the right people on board to do that. Once the survey is done, as we sit and talk with HR and those decision makers, it's also then going back to the employees and then following up, asking what has changed, what hasn't, what has helped, and be able to give that feedback, because that's really important to the employer. If I make these changes as an employer, but I don't know if it was well accepted, was it well received, is this helping? I'm not going to know the next time around when it's time to make decisions. And so we really want to make sure we have that follow up and follow through. And so big picture, I think that there are a lot of opportunities. We've worked with different programs like Cytel. That was an organization that we worked with. And again, a survey went out. We analyzed the results. We talked to the decision makers. It's really making the suggestions about, can you do flexibility in your schedule? What about paid time off? Work from home? What are the things that may not cost money, but has a big effect on the family? And so it's, again, looking at those different types of employers, because again, the setting makes a huge difference. If you have folks who cannot work from home, that's not going to be a good option. But what are the options that would apply appropriately? And we're also learning. And I think we want to make sure that the employers understand that every time we speak to someone, we learn something new. And so we want to make sure that we are understanding, as the world has changed, as employers' needs have changed, that we are understanding so we can help them make the best decision. We also have folks on staff that are, lactation consultants, so we can help do a variety of things. It's not just to the benefit piece, but how can I make sure that my environment is set up to be family friendly? If I have a nursing mom who has to go into the bathroom to pump, that's not appropriate. That's not healthy. That's not a good culture that most employers want to have. But if they're not aware of that, they don't know any better. So how can we offer a variety of options for, have you thought of, or this would be a great option? And then we can go into their space and help them make those best decisions.
Great, yes. So I agree with you. When staff feel their employer cares about them as people, employee engagement improves, it aids in boosting recruitment, enhances retention, and reduces absenteeism. So I definitely agree with everything that you mentioned. I have another question for you. So do you know any businesses locally that are helping their employees with their childcare related issues? And if so, what are they doing to support their employees?
Sure. So I mentioned Sitel, and that was an organization that we worked fairly closely with over an extended period of time. And I know, again, making sure that those family-friendly policies were starting to be put into place, such as that flexibility and the different suggestions, those are key. There's been several that have been highlighted across the state that I feel very easily could be mimicked, especially in those like-minded businesses. So, for example, Parkview, as far as a hospital, they really did a great job of assessing. They wanted to take the time to make sure, what are the right questions that should be asked? How do I make sure that I'm understanding exactly what it is that is needed? Sometimes asking for suggestions, right? So we may not have the answers. It may be the families themselves that have the answers. And so, they're in Parkview, they're in northeastern Indiana. And so they're a very large organization. So, 12,000 plus employees. And so their policies were influenced by maternity leave or pay time off. How do I help this parent re-enter after having 12 weeks off of a maternity leave? We all know, those of us that are parents or have witnessed a parent coming back to work after being off with a newborn, that's a difficult transition. And anything we can do to help ease that would be just a huge benefit to not only that employee, but to the organization itself. They also talked a lot about some of the challenges that they have even with meals, right? You're going from work to home, picking up a child and then to home, and then I need to eat. And what can I do even with meals, supporting people as they transition? Or maybe I have a 3-year-old and I've transitioned from maternity leave, but there's just those challenges of having young children. So there's several different employers that have done a lot of different things that I feel could be easily mimicked. Again, an employer that has 12,000 employees, that's way different than a small business. But again, taking what others have done and seeing how it can be modified, I think that's how we can support and make sure that those employees have options and can think about these things. Also, I think it's really important that employers understand you can't go from just doing one or two things to doing everything. There is no expectation. There's no way that that would work right. So it's really saying, what is the first step? How can I make sure I'm going in the right direction versus just standing still? And so if that first thing is being able to say that, there's flexibility with start time, so that I can make sure I get my kids on the school bus or I get to childcare and I can get to work and I am not feeling pressured or rushed, and that is something that works within the business, start there. One thing at a time is better than nothing. And so I think it's, again, moving in that direction, making sure you're stepping forward. And then again, just continuing to listen to your employees because they can tell you what they need.
Right. Thank you so much, Molly. So I do have two messages that were directly sent to me. One of the questions is, what is the advantage of utilizing childcare answers?
Sure. So I think it really depends on what the audience we're speaking to. And so again, with families, it's a lot of information and support. And so whether I'm a mom who's expecting and I have no idea what to look for in childcare, I don't know what I'm doing, it's a quick phone call and we have folks who can walk you through really what are the first steps, how far in advance you need to look for childcare, preparing for the cost. There's just a little bit about everything when it comes to being a parent that we have the access to support. Finding childcare, if you give us what you're looking for, the location, are you wanting somewhere on your way to work from home? Is it, within so many miles? We can do a search for that and make sure that we can give you options for you then to call and make the right decision for you. I think the biggest misconception is that we're here to tell you which childcare to choose. That's not our job. Our job is to inform you, help you get everything you need, and then help you make that decision. It is completely a family's decision. We just want to make sure you have the right tools. And then as far as the childcare programs, those that are emerging, definitely getting started on the right foot. We have the ability, we work with licensing consultants. We work with a lot of folks who this is what they have done and they have a lot of experience. Some of our staff actually have worked in childcares, have had their own childcares, so they understand the challenges that are out there. We also work with other organizations, so we can partner with best business practices so that is in the forefront, because sometimes we think, I love children, this is what I want to do, let's go, but forget that business plan is super crucial. So that is something we really pride ourselves to make sure that we can help folks start out on the right foot. And then again, organizations getting information out there. I've had the response of, I wish I knew you were available when I had a child. And I think this has been a joke, is we're the best kept secret because people don't know about us. And it's really, these services are free. We are partnered with the state of Indiana. And so it's not at a cost to the employer, to the family. These are all services that we want to support you with. And again, it's all for the general purpose of early childhood. We all have the same goal in mind, is we want to make sure that the whole family is served and that those children have the best spots available while they're young.
Great. So the next question I have for you, what has been the impact that organizations, companies have seen by partnering with Child Care Answers?
Sure. So I think somebody I spoke with actually earlier this week was just amazed at the reach that we had. They were able to give us information about their organization by us posting on social media, by us sending out in newsletters, and more folks were coming to them just by our relationship. And it was another organization that they knew nothing about. So we are able to share a lot of resources that are out there that young families may not know about. I think with employers, again, it's not that there is a negative connotation because you don't necessarily have family-friendly policies. We want to help you. We want to help you grow. Things change. We know that 30 years ago, things didn't look the same, and they won't look the same 30 years from now. We want to be able to grow with where you're at, help and support you. And really, the benefits for us is that there's an understanding of a change in culture for that those family-friendly policies, that you don't have as much turnover. Our goals would almost be the same as yours. If your bottom line grows, that's a good thing for us too. And we know that if you can keep those employees on staff, again, that's serving our families.
All right, yes. And let's see, I have another question. How has Child Care Answers incorporated these techniques into our own organization?
Right. And so I think that's a great question, and something that, again, we're starting small. We're a very small organization of 13 people, very different than 12,000 at Parkview. So we have to take some things into consideration a little differently. We've worked on making sure that we can start slowly if we want to implement a maternity paternity leave that would be important for mom or dad. We want to make sure that there's time spent. We cannot afford to pay off for 12 weeks, but we know we want to start small. So what can we do? We have the flex time. So, you need to take your child to the doctor in the morning. It's not necessarily that you have to take your paid time off. You can come in late and stay late. You can work in the evening and enter your data. That has no effect whether you enter it at 9 a.m. or 9 p.m. That doesn't matter to us. You're getting your job done. And so we want to make sure that we're walking the walk, right? We're telling employers, hey, this is really important for your bottom line. It's important that we're doing that as well. We have a lot of opportunity for especially during the pandemic, we had people working from home, they had children at home. How can we help? That's the question that people need to be asking. And we tried really hard to ask our employees, what can I do to help you? Is it you need more flexible hours? Is the time between 1 and 3 when your child's napping the time you want to have those meetings? Okay, what can I do to work around that schedule? How can I help you? And what we're finding is the more we ask that question, the more benefits and details we're getting to better support. We don't have to come up with the ideas ourselves. Our employees are helping us. We're also looking at what we can do to support the cost of childcare. We know it's astronomical. We know it's a huge cost. We cannot burden the entire cost for families, but what is it that we can do? How can we build that into benefits and support? So there's a lot of different ways. I know there's some challenges with tax implications and making sure that everything is done the appropriate way, but it's looking at partnering with other childcares to say, if our families come to you, how can we support? Is there a reimbursement that is able to be done, that you bring me the invoice or the receipt from your childcare and we can reimburse you to a certain amount of money? We're also looking at not just childcare, but dependent care, because we also understand not everyone has young children. So they may have other needs. So as their parents or, aunts, uncles, siblings, someone that also may need dependent care instead of child care. And so we're trying to merge that as well to make sure we're serving the whole employee and meeting them where they are at their time in life.
Great. Yes, that's awesome to know. So my last question I have for you, are you able to come into companies and provide presentations to employees?
Sure, we'd be happy to do that. I think the biggest thing for us is we want to know enough about you so that we can make sure we're speaking to speaking the correct way to the audience. If you're a organization that works 9 to 5, that looks completely different than an organization that has employees for 3 shifts. And so we want to make sure that we are not saying things that aren't going to apply appropriately to, the business, your organization, your employees. So really it's helping us understand you. And then we can come in and talk about all of our services, right? The services that I talked about, we can talk about the specific things in detail. We can meet with managers and supervisors and help them understand how to recognize some of the challenges that may be popping up, but they're not sure that they're childcare related or family related. We can also come in when you have new hire. Some employers have a lot of turnover or a lot of new hire classes. We would be happy to be on site to just give a little bit of information about us. And if you're moving to the area, you may have no idea where to look for childcare. We are happy to sit down with you, talk with you over the phone. We have a lot of great things on our website that are self-serve. So I know some families don't have the time during the day or our office hours to look at that. You can fill out forms online, send them to us, and we'll get back to you with that information. So it really depends on what the needs are, but even just general overviews and then allowing employees to ask the questions that drives the next presentation or next conversation, we're happy to do. We have a lot of great folks on staff that have some specialty areas. We have a community engagement specialist, we have family specialists, we have people who work specifically with childcare programs, businesses. So we can really make sure that we tailor it to your needs. And really, again, as much as we want to come in and just tell you everything, we know that there's a lot to tell you. So we want to know more about you and your business or your organization to find out so that we can make sure we're sharing the right information.
Thank you. Yes, we are super excited to share information any way possible. We are very vocal in the community as we try to navigate and be part of these conversations and enter in those different networks. I don't have any more questions for you, Mollie. I just want to say thank you so much for being a part of this conversation with me. You can also register for these upcoming series on our website. You just click on the event calendar. It's usually typically in the upper right-hand corner of our website. We look forward to seeing everyone in the next upcoming weeks for the upcoming series. Again, thank you all for joining with me.